Okay, play button is pushed. You're not supposed to hear this. This is like the unofficial pre-show. All right.
All right. Might as well put on some music. All these weird gadgets, you think they'd give you a radio?
What would you like to hear?
What the hell was that?
Do you wish further information on Silicon Valley?
Hell no, I want to know who you are and how you're listening in.
There's no reason for increased volume. I am scanning your interrogatives quite satisfactorily. I am the voice of Night Industry 2000's microprocessor. KITT for easy reference. A kit if you prefer.
No, I don't prefer, and what's more, I don't intend to drive around in a car that talks back to me, so either Devin pulls your plug, or you get yourself another driver.
I am not qualified to overrule your wishes.
Well, that's real good to hear, Kit. Because I don't want to hear another peep out of you until I can get a call off the Devons, so clam up. I'm going to listen to some good music, and don't offer any suggestions. I'll choose my own.
As you wish, Mr. Knight. But since you are still recovering from your ordeal, and I detect we're in a slightly irritable mood caused by fatigue, may I suggest you put the car in the auto-cruise mode for safety's sake?
No, you may not. And that's final. Good night.
Good night.
I can't believe this. A car that talks back to me.
What are you? I'm Batman.
Sir.
My name is Bond.
Bond. I'm Batman.
Knight Rider.
My name is Oliver Queen.
I'm Batman.
James Bond.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
I am the Green Arrow.
This is The Night Cave, the show covering everything related to Batman, James Bond, Knight Rider, and Arrow. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of The Night Cave. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. Thanks for joining me. This is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman, James Bond movies, as well as Arrow and Knight Rider. How about that intro? Yeah, you know how long I've been waiting to play a Knight Rider clip on this? For quite a while, probably since the incarnation of the show. I'm like, why didn't I ever go back and add one of my favorite childhood shows, which is still remains as my favorite TV show of all time? Anywho, I hope all of you have had a great week. Yeah, lots and lots to get to, and I've been trying to get to this episode for almost over a week now. And well, let me go back here just for a minute here. First of all, a huge thank you to Mr. Matthew Salanoa, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, for joining me for the Batman 89 30th anniversary episode. Yeah, if you haven't listened to this review, this might be one of my favorite reviews I've ever done for any movie, and for both incarnations of this show. You know, we had little technical difficulties, I gotta tell you, but we got it straightened out. And you know what? The second time, I think we both agreed that it was actually better than we intended it to. We thought it was going to turn out. So, always a pleasure having him on the show. Like I said, if you haven't listened, you have my permission to pause this episode, go back to last week's episode, Batman 89 30th Anniversary Review, and if you haven't seen the movie, shame on you. Now, as I was saying, lots and lots to get to. As always, this is going to be one of those newsworthy shows. I have actually backed up with reviews. Yes, I have a Moonraker review planned. Yes, I have a License to Kill review planned. What other movies have I missed? You know what? And I might be playing catch up come August because that's going to be more the slower time of the year. It just so happens that, as luck would have it, this is the weekend of San Diego Comic-Con. Now, why does that matter to you? It might not matter to you. As not so much a comic fan as a movie and TV show fan, especially of the Arrowverse, it means quite a lot to me. And hopefully we can get to we'll touch base because on that just a little later. This is going to be one of those episodes that I would say could be, you can take my opinion for what it is, as you always have, but I think this is one where it's going to be, we're going to have some mixed opinions on this, and it's definitely something that we have to talk about. So without further ado, let's talk about Bond 25. Not so much Batman news this week, and that's okay, but let's talk about the big story. I would say that it was really misconstrued. So an article came out I guess it was probably the beginning of the week, maybe even over this past weekend. Let it be known that it is currently Friday, July, I don't know, what is it, the 19th, around 3:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, maybe people have cooled down about this, and I'm making this sound like there's, like high tension with this, but I think some people are really blowing it out of proportion. So, there was a news story that came out from from an insider told the Mail, which is where you should get all of your James Bond movie news. Excuse me, sorry. I had to clear my throat there because I was going to say something. Anywho, it says the Bond 25, as it is as it is called right now, will see actress Lashana Lynch take over from Daniel Craig to become the first female 007. So, as this news article reads, and I don't want to go into it too much, but actress Lashana Lynch will take the place on the iconic spy role of 007 in Bond 25, according to reports. While titular hero James Bond will still be portrayed by Daniel Craig, age 51, writer Phoebe Waller-Bridge has introduced a major twist to the long-running franchise. She will introduce the Captain Marvel star, 31, or she's age 31, as the current 007's replacement within the Secret Service, while a decision has yet to be made who will take over from Daniel Craig in Bond 26. An insider told the Mail there is a pivotal scene. You know what? Let me say this also. Spoiler alert, because, and you know this by now, I try not to spoil things on here too much, but I will at least give you the warning. So there's a possibility that this could be a spoiler, even though it hasn't been officially confirmed, okay? So spoiler alert. Listen at your own risk. There's a pivotal scene at the start of the film where M says, "Come in, 007," and walks in Lashana, who is black, beautiful, and a woman. Now, what they're saying about this is the source also revealed that Bond will be brought out of retirement in Jamaica to thwart a global crisis. M goes to him for help, and yeah, so I know that there's a lot. What I'm saying is, when I said people are misunderstanding this and taking this article the wrong way, or this news the wrong way, is let's get this straight. This actress, let's go back to her name here, Lashana Lynch, is not going to be James Bond, okay? She is going to be 007. And I think Pierce Brosnan, which probably is one of the most controversial Bond films, I would say, of, whether it was great or whether it was total suck, was Die Another Day. There were some good parts about this. And one of the best quotes in there, I would say, that Pierce Brosnan's James Bond said is when he was talking to Miranda Frost, and she's like, "But you're a 00." And he's like, "It's only a number." Exactly. Thank you, Pierce Brosnan. It is only a number. That means that all the way back to Thunderball, when James Bond and all the agents, all the 00s were brought in because the nuclear missiles were stolen. The NATO missiles were stolen, so what do? And brings in all the 00s. And guess what? I believe there was a woman there. And if there wasn't a woman there, then back in 1999, In the World Is Not Enough, there is a woman in there in the Scotland branch of MI6. So there are female agents. There has been female agents for quite some time. There has been female agents in the Pierce Brosnan era. You can say that Halle Berry, she was an NSA agent. Miranda Frost was a 00 agent. Now, she was still kind of she wasn't a junior agent, but she wasn't counted as a 00, so she was still just secret agent probably. You have other agents in the Daniel Craig era films. So, I mean, all this BS about, oh, James Bond, she can't be a 00 agent, or she can't be James Bond. I think the biggest thing people are having problems with is that they're misunderstanding that this actress, Lashana Lynch, is going to be 007 James Bond. First, read the article, okay? And then, come together with it, okay? This is, I'm not talking Me Too movement here, okay, guys? I'm talking about just plain and simple a female agent being, having the new call sign, and that, we'll call it call sign on this show. The call sign of 007 can belong to anybody. Hell, I like to consider myself 008 because 007 was taken. That doesn't mean I'm going to, I'm a 00 agent, That's a bad example. Besides the point, though, the idea that people are getting bent out of shape about the fact that she's a woman, that she's of a different skin color. This goes back to even about a year or so when I was on right before I went on a hiatus. We were talking about this on this very show about a eventual female Agent 007, about Gillian Anderson wanting to become the first female James Bond. And I said, if I remember correctly, I said, okay, you can do a spin-off, you can be whatever you want to be, but you will never be James Bond. James Bond will always be a man. Now, James Bond, people will say, oh, well, in the books, he was white, he was British or whatever. Well, let's see. Let's think back to that, because we have had a Scottish actor who played James Bond. We've had an Australian actor to play James Bond. We've had an Irish actor to play James Bond. And who knows? Maybe, if I was in better shape and I was in Daniel Craig Casino Royale shape in 2006 with his big-ass muscles, then maybe I could have been the first Hispanic James Bond. Not going to happen for me, but that's always a possibility. And, it's sad to say, but you're always going to have these trolls that are out there. I'm not yelling at you guys. It just really pisses me off, to be honest with you, that, okay, well, you're saying that it's always going to have to be a white actor, a white male actor playing James Bond. That's crap. It really, really is. There's been, how many times has it been brought up about Idris Elba being the next James Bond? Well, and my only argument against Idris Elba is he's not my favorite actor, okay? But he's okay. He's not my first choice, but he is the age of Daniel Craig, and even if he was to take over, he'd only be able to do it for maybe one movie, which I think would be the wrong move. I think if you want to have a lead actor carrying a franchise, you want to have somebody who's the age that Daniel Craig was when he started off. And look at him now. He's 51, and he's still able to carry on these action scenes. Yes, he got injured in the last two movies, but even so, the idea of this little spin, if you will, that they're putting on 007 about having somebody walk in as 007 at being Lashana Lynch, I'm down with it. I really am. I think it's an interesting spin, if you will. I would have rather not have known this, before seeing the movie, but it's not a surprise, because by now, if you are a Bond fan, you already know that kind of the way this premise is that that he retired and that he's in Jamaica, and that eventually, he's going to have to come back, but somebody had to fill the void. So they can't, I guess they're just kind of like saying, okay, well, she's 007, but it doesn't mean she's James Bond. So I really would like to know what you guys have to think about this. Like I said, I'm not mad at, well, maybe I'm a little mad. I'm a little mad at people when they're saying this online, or they're just, taking it out of context. If the idea of a woman being a secret agent, a woman of color being a 007, whatever it is. And I really, really get tired of the trolls that are online saying it has to stick by what the book said. Okay, guys, there's different iterations of this character. It's allowed. I think we can move past that. And I think even Ian Fleming, he would probably agree, saying, okay, it's a different time, it's a different world, and it's not. It's just a book at the end of the day, just like it's a movie at the end of the day. So let's be open to something like this, okay? Like I said, I don't want this actress to be James Bond. I don't want that. I believe James Bond is his own character, just like with Batman. Batman is his own character. They've created a Batwoman. Give me another character really quick. Okay, Superman. Perfect. Superman. Supergirl. Okay? And, I mean, people would say, well, it should be Superwoman. Whatever. They're still equal sides. And some people would say even Supergirl is stronger than Superman. Save that argument for another time. But bottom line is that I'm more intrigued by this movie the more I see of it and hear of it. Something like this, it does... I don't think it's going to change anything about the movie at all. I think it's just going to be something really quick. I think this is going to be like a 30-second thing, and then boom. It really makes no difference to what's going to happen in the movie at all. I think it's just going to be like, come in, 007. You see somebody that you don't expect. Average Joe, who's not as big a 007 fan, like, say, my wife, she's going to come in, when I drag her to this movie, which I will, she's going to be like, oh, well, where's James Bond? Where's Daniel Craig? Well, he's retired. So they had they've moved his call sign to somebody else. So let's move on to the next story here because we are short on time and lots of things to get to. Like I said, if you have a comment about that, please let me know. Okay, this next story is also a possible spoiler alert, so you've been warned. I believe it's a writer. His name is Baz Bagmaboy, whatever. Baz posted the story this past week saying Christopher Waltz has apparently been spotted on the set at Pinewood Studios, and a film executive exclusively spoke to Bagmaboy, telling him there's unfinished business between Bond and Blofeld. If I told you any more, I'd have to kill you. Okay, so I can't say I'm too surprised with this. Blofeld back. Wow. I didn't want this, though. And here's why. I think I said this before since I've been back, saying that the great thing about a Bond movie is you can have standalone Bond films all of a sudden. Sure, you can have your Dr. No, From Russia with Love. They're all connected with Spectre. But then you can have your one-off, I would say, and that would be Goldfinger, and it's not connected to anything with a secret within like a secret organization. So to tie Blofeld in here, see, I didn't even want Madeline Swan back. I really didn't, but I understand why they're doing that. But in the case of bringing Blofeld back, I think it's bringing too much to the story. I would have rather them just been like, okay, well, let's not even mention Blofeld. Let's just move on. Let's just focus on the bad guy that we're going to have in this. Let's pull a Skyfall, and we're not going to worry about Mr. White. We're not going to worry about Quantum. We're just going to think about what's going on right here with Mr. Silva, and that's it. Now, do I think that this is true? I think there's a very good chance that this ends up being true. Nothing against Christoph Waltz. Maybe it's how the part was written. I think he's an amazing actor. I do. I didn't want him in this film, and I really didn't want him to be anywhere near this film. Like I said, I would have rather had a one-off. So let me know what you guys have to think about that. Actually, I think it might come up later in questions, so stay tuned for that. And bear with me here because I think I'm fighting like allergies or some kind of a cold. So anyway, I might be pausing for a drink of water here and there. So anyway. Some more Bond 25 news that came about was the composer Dan Romer is to reunite with director Cary Fukuyama. I can never say his name. Cary Fukuyama, the new director of Bond 25. So we are not going to be getting back. Thomas Newman, and a lot of people, including myself, would have liked to have seen David Arnold come back one more time for Daniel Craig. I'm open to new composers. I think the great thing about movies is, especially movies like this, is that you get to bring in a new composer, and sometimes they mix up the sound. They'll bring their own little part to it. He's going to be playing the James Bond theme. I mean, come on, James Bond is you can't. If you go back and look at all of the James Bond scores, I'm not going to say Batman because Batman's a different. Yeah, what's the expression? See, this is just me being, under the weather. Anyway, a different animal. Thank you. So, with James Bond, that Monty Norman James Bond theme has been through so many different iterations, so many different composers. You've had John Barry. You've had, oh my goodness, give me some more. You've had, I'm just going to throw it off the top of my head. I said David Arnold, Thomas Newman, Michael Kamen, Bill Conti, who did the Rocky score, one of the Beatles, and his name escapes me. George Harrison did one. Who's the guy who did Bond 77? I know you guys are yelling it out right now at your radio. Anyway, you get the point. But all of them, in a way, use the James Bond theme. Some of them, I would say, really used it. I remember Thomas Newman even said, like, when it came to, like, Skyfall, that, it's his choice of how he wants to use it. I think I don't know if they, because of the rights, I don't know if he's limited or he has a right to, like, how many times he can use it. I don't know how that works. But I will say that I'm looking forward to this. I know that a similar franchise called the Mission Impossible franchise, they've stuck with their theme of Mission Impossible, the Layla Schifrin theme, and they're on they're on their 7th movie now, and who knows what the composer for what that's going to be, but they've always stuck with that Mission Impossible theme, and you know what, I'm willing to give this guy a chance. I don't know anything about his body of work. The fact that he worked with the director already, you know, it gives me hope. You know, like I said, when I used to run, well, now it's just when I'm listening in my car, listening at work. When I'm listening to James Bond, all my scores that I have lots of them, and I even have my own like mix of all just the main James Bond themes. But then I'm like listening to them, like, man, it's a song I can never get tired of. If you get tired of that, then, as I always say, shame on you. But you know, it's just amazing how many different composers and artists have put their own little mix to that, and it has their own little flavor on it. So I'm looking forward to this. Like I said, I was, you know, if Sam Mendes would have come back, I would have very much wouldn't have been surprised if Thomas Newman would have come back, and I'm kind of surprised he didn't. But you know, we'll see what happens with Dan Romer and holding on. I'm waiting for those clips, buddy. So yeah, we'll see. So here's somebody that is coming back to work. A long time. He's the title designer for the James Bond films. He has been for quite a while, minus Quantum Solace, all the way back to GoldenEye. Is Daniel Kleinman, and he will be returning for Bond 25. And it was exclusively revealed by James Bond Magasinet in Norway. So if you've ever watched a Bond title sequence, those amazing Bond title sequences with all the beautiful Bond girls, whether it's Daniel Craig's, you know, blue eyes in there, whether it's the dragon or the octopus, or the Russian girls at the very beginning of GoldenEye, those are all Daniel Kleinman. And you know, when the James Bond intros or title sequences were done, you could tell who was doing them at the same time. And after a while, I think by the time it got to the Timothy Dalton era, they would look like they were kind of very, very similar, but they were also enjoyable at the same time. But yeah, Daniel Kleinman, Maurice Binder, thank you. Maurice Binder was the one who did that, and he was doing them for, I think, since all the way the very beginning. I think there's maybe one Bond film he didn't do. I don't know if he did Goldfinger or not, or From Russia with Love, but bottom line is that the opening title sequence is just like its own character. And whenever we hear this new Bond title song for whatever it's going to be called for Bond 25, love it or hate the song, I think something, and maybe it's just me, but the title sequence is something that always enhances it. It always makes it sound a whole lot better, maybe because it's like its own little music video. I have no idea, but it's always saying, I'm always like wondering, it's like, oh man, what's the theme going to be this time? Is it going to be oil and tie-dye? Is it going to be a deck of cards and Queen Vesper in the background? Who knows? So, yeah, very, very excited to see Daniel Kleinman come back. So, yeah, stay tuned for more Bond news. All right, let's switch gears here. Like I said, we're finally talking Arrow on the show. Batman, there isn't really anything going on right now, and I will tell you that even at San Diego Comic-Con right now, the only thing that they have right now that I've seen online, and I'm just pretty much like everybody else, just following all the pictures and posts on there, they have all the Batsuits like I was able to see at, it's called AwesomeCon. It's here in Washington, D.C., and they brought everything from the Burton, the Schumacher movies, the Nolan films, all the way up to the Batfleck Batsuit. And they brought Mr. Freeze's suit in there. They brought Catwoman, Poison Ivy, all good stuff. They didn't bring the Batmobile, which is something that they did do at San Diego Comic-Con, I'm pretty sure. I think I saw the Burton Batmobile there, which I would love to get a picture. So if you are in the listening audience and you are at San Diego Comic-Con, give me a picture of the Burton Batmobile, please. Anywho, so, yes, that's my dog in the background, Sienna. Sienna is, getting bored already. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so, all right. I wanted to talk about Arrow for quite a long time, and like I said before, I tried doing the YouTube after show for Arrow, and it was too much. It took up too much time, unfortunately. So, if you haven't watched Arrow, okay, let me give you a little FYI. They're on their 8th and final season. Now, does that mean after the season is over at the end of the year, I'm going to stop talking about it? Absolutely not. No way. James Bond and Batman, they are very similar characters to Arrow. Or I'm sorry, Arrow is this iteration of Arrow is very similar to James Bond and Batman, especially the Nolan Batman. Same goes for Knight Rider. Knight Rider's been off the air since all the way back in 1985, 86. So, like I said, it's not just because it's off the air doesn't mean I'm going to stop talking about it. I can't get as deep into it as I want to. I do want to go back and do some reviews of the seasons. I think leading up to the premiere, which will be in October, we'll be doing I'll be doing like a countdown of my favorite episodes of Arrow or my favorite episodes from the seasons. If you have a chance to watch it, I highly encourage you, if you haven't already, give it a chance. Skip season 4. Last season was pretty good, but there's some great action. It's very character driven. I'm trying to think of the actor Stephen Amell. He's the one that carries this show so well. So let me give you a quick synopsis of what Arrow is about if you don't know already. Arrow is about, and it's going to sound very familiar because the character of Arrow slightly resembles Batman. It was done intentionally. It's okay. So Oliver Queen, he was stranded on an island for 5 years, and what ended up happening is a whole lot of unexpected action and drama on this island when he was there. He was a billionaire playboy, shipwrecked by when he was on his father's boat. His father killed himself so he could live and right his wrongs, as he says. And since then, when we were introduced to Oliver Queen at the very beginning of the first episode, he was shipwrecked and he was rescued. And then from then on, we're watching it from his perspective as he comes back to the city, to Starling City, which is pretty much like just a slightly nicer Gotham City. And he takes on this role as they call him the Hood. That's not the name that he chose. It's just the name that the Starling City Police gave him. So what he's doing is he has this list of names, and this is a list of names that his father gave him to, that was a part of a plan that they were doing the Starling City wrong. They were more like millionaires and higher tycoons and so forth, and he's taking them out. And when I say taking them out, he is taking them out with a bow and an arrow and dressed like Robin Hood. And they make those references in there. And as he goes on, he realizes that he didn't intend to be a hero, but he ends up becoming a hero. And like I said, it's such a great story. So what makes this so bittersweet, I guess, this weekend, for me anyway, is that one, they've already started shooting season 8 of Arrow, and it's actually going to be titled Starling City. The other thing that's bittersweet for me is that at San Diego Comic-Con, this is going to be the final appearance of Stephen Amell as Arrow, or as the Green Arrow, at this Comic-Con. So this is like I said, it's bittersweet for me because I've been watching his appearances at Comic-Cons for the last couple years. I've had a chance to meet him twice. Super, super nice guy. Actually, now I can finally say this. The first time I ever met him, I'm the guy that I was trying to not want to say flatter him, but I was trying to have that, instead of oh, who do what's your favorite suit? What do you think? Who do you think would win in a fight between you and Batman? I came up with a question, which I don't think he's ever been asked before. Who do you think would win in a fight? You or James Bond? And I meant Arrow or James Bond. And he's like, Roger Moore? No. Timothy Dalton? No. And he said definitely him, and I don't know which James Bond he would be going against, but I still thought it was really funny. So he had a really good sense of humor about it. Anyway, though, so this is there's a big thing, as they say, a big crisis that's about to happen. To me, this is going to be like the Avengers of TV, and I think, to me, it might be even better because I've watched all these characters. So what Arrow is considered is the granddaddy of these TV shows that are on the CW. Now, it started off with Arrow, then into The Flash, then to Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, and then to now it's going to be Batwoman. So you have all these characters and all these TV shows, and what they do is something called a crossover. And it's exactly what you think it is if you don't know what a crossover is. It started off with The Flash and Arrow meeting each other, fighting to get a really, really bad villain. And then they met Supergirl. Supergirl joined them, and they're fighting aliens. And then after that, they're fighting Nazi versions of themselves on this, what I consider one of the coolest crossovers ever, Crisis on Earth X. And the action and the music and the story, I say it's top notch anyway. So now what they're going to be doing is something called Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it's going to be all different Earths, maybe even, I don't want to say timelines, but Arrow is going to be the guy that's going to be recruiting all these other superheroes and working with this guy called the Monitor. Now, I know I'm going too deep into this, especially since I don't have a lot of time, but I will say that is one of the big announcements that I will be talking about next week with Crisis on Infinite Earths and Arrow and whatever news we have to come from. The panel isn't until Saturday, which is tomorrow. By that time, if I haven't had a chance to watch, I don't know if they're going to be streaming it online from Hall H or wherever they have it. But I will be doing a full recap of San Diego Comic-Con more next week. But there is some news that has been breaking. For the Arrow fans out there, they are going to be bringing back two characters that have been on there for actually, this character, the actor Colin Donnell, who played Tommy Merlin all the way from Season 1, is coming back again. Can't wait to see him. He was such a great character. And Josh Segura, who played... oh my goodness, Adrian Chase, Prometheus, which is one of the coolest villains out there. Imagine a bad version of Batman meets the Joker, and that's what this is for Arrow. It's just this guy is, as he says, 10 steps ahead, and man, I cannot wait. So this was announced by TV Insider. Arrow is bringing back Colin Donnell and Josh Segura for the final season, but expect a couple twists. No idea exactly what the couple twists are going to be. So, like I said, I'm going to save that for next week with the San Diego Comic-Con recap for 2019. So, if you are a fan of Arrow, definitely send me some questions, because I am going to be starting to talk more about this. So, and I love to talk about Arrow too. So, comment on the Twitter, send me a comment on Twitter, send me a comment on one of my posts on Instagram, and let me know, or Facebook. All right, so let's finish it up here with some Knight Rider. So, something else I've obviously added to the show, as you can tell from the intro, is Knight Rider. Now, when I decided to add Knight Rider to this show, it didn't occur to me that there would still be news that would be coming out for Knight Rider. I was like, okay, well, maybe we'll hear something in the next 5 to 10 years about a movie, possibly in the works, and it's been going on for quite a long time. So, for those of you out there that have no idea what Knight Rider is a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist in a car unlike any other. That's the best way to put it, okay? It is about a guy who used to be a cop. He was how do I say this? I don't want to spoil the whole thing for you guys, so that's what makes this so hard, but it's about he's an investigator. He works for this foundation called the Foundation for Law and Government. They built a car unlike any other. It happened to be a black Trans Am, a 1982 black Trans Am, full of all these little gadgets and gizmos, just like a James Bond car, or even like the Batmobile. And it has its own artificial intelligence. And yes, the car talks. The car has its own personality. So the banter that these two characters have, and yes, I'm considering the car as a character, Michael Knight. It was a weekly show. It had maybe about 20 episodes. It had a total run of 4 seasons, which is a really good run, all things considered. And it had a villain of the week. Sometimes there was a few reoccurring villains in there, but it didn't. It was popcorn fun. It always sent a message. One man can make a difference. I think we can definitely say that applies to Batman. I would even say that definitely applies to James Bond. Definitely to Arrow. And I think it's something that you guys, for all the young listeners out there, just because something was in the 80s doesn't make it too old, just like James Bond, that started off in the 60s, very, very relevant. So, I highly, once again, encourage you to check out both Arrow and Knight Rider. Knight Rider can be found on NBC.com on the NBC app. You can stream it right on there, so you don't have to buy it. You just have to watch a few commercials. I'm still watching it practically every other day. Arrow can be found on the CW app, and Arrow can also be found on Netflix. All the seasons are there, ready to stream, ready to watch. But the funny thing is, this past week I was watching this, and I didn't have a chance to do it because we were trying to record the Batman episode. So in between that time, they had something called Battle of the 80 Supercars. It is exactly what you think it would be. It was a 2-hour special with star David Hasselhoff, who played Michael Knight in the show Knight Rider, and he was setting out to prove that the iconic 80s kit car inspired and revolutionized the car industry for years to come. He went from he went around not just talking about how kit influenced artificial intelligence cars, cars that can actually go and move in water, ones that are bulletproof, all kinds of different things. And he's actually test driving these cars, which is really cool. The fastest car in the world, well, maybe not the fastest car in the world, but things like that anyway. Cars that drive itself, all kinds of things. And then in between there, he's having a challenge with Eric Estrada from Chips. Now I'm really dating myself. Chips was about the California Highway Patrol motorcycle division, I guess you could say. And Eric Estrada played a character on there named Punch. And he raced his 70s Kawasaki K1000 motorcycle on there. And then they get in from the A-Team, Dirk Benedict, who played Faceman. And at the very end, these guys are racing around a course in their original cars and the original motorcycle, and it is insane. They had 3 races. I'm not going to spoil it for you. It was on the History Channel. If you are a fan of 80s TV shows and of these shows, you will have a blast. Oh my god, I was nerding out. I'm showing my whip. I'm like, look at this. It's Kid. It's the A-Team. It's Punch. And she's like, get a life. No, she didn't say that, but I know she was thinking that at the same time. But yeah, like I said, I know I keep saying this, but we will delve more into these shows. I want you guys to have a chance to at least watch maybe the pilot episode. Let me know what you think, saying, Brian, this is outdated, or Brian, wow, why didn't I ever see this before? So let me know what you have to think about it, okay? Quickly, anniversaries. If you can believe it, The Spy Who Loved Me celebrates an anniversary on July 13th. It came out in 1977. I'm thinking about the other day, or this past week. I'm going to say that it's my favorite Roger Moore James Bond movie. It's definitely in my top 5, top 10 of James Bond films, easily. The Agent Triple X alone and The White Lotus would move it up to the top 5 for me. License to Kill celebrated an anniversary on July 14th. It came out in 1989, which makes it also 30 years old. Wow. This is one I will be doing a review for, so I won't talk too much about it, but I will say it is easily the most underrated James Bond film ever, and the bloodiest one of all. The Dark Knight celebrated an anniversary. As a matter of fact, yesterday on July 18th, it came out in 2008, which means, wow, where has time gone? It is probably one of the best movies. I would say it's probably one of the best movies ever made. I know that's a bold statement, as they say, but it's something about that, about just everything from Heath Ledger's performance to the cinematography to the action sequences and everything else in between there. The score by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. It's just that good. So if you haven't checked out The Dark Knight, once again, shame on you, but please get on it. The Dark Knight Rises celebrates an anniversary on July 20th, 2012 is when it came out. Definitely mixed feelings about that for some listeners out there. I myself enjoy the movie. Do I think it's a little long? Yes. Do I think it has some plot holes? Yes. It doesn't mean that I don't enjoy it. Do I wish we would have seen more of Batman? Do I wish the story would have gone in a different direction? Yes, I do. But you know what? I still enjoy it. I think it's better than majority of the other Batman films that are out there, and that's not a bad thing at all. So let's go to listener questions while we're running short on time here. I know I keep saying that. So this comes from Chris Frala, and he says, so do they retcon the brother angle or do they ignore it altogether? And Chris is talking about the I posted a picture earlier with social media of Ernest Stavler Blofeld, or at least of Christoph Waltz's Blofeld and Daniel Craig. And yeah, the brother angle with Spectre is probably one of the stupidest things that happened in that movie. They ripped off Goldmember, for God's sakes. Yeah, I wish that they would have, never ever like brought that up. What it's okay to get personal sometimes with your villain and your hero, but I treat him as my brother, my little brother. And it's like, okay, so what you're saying is that, one, you have daddy issues, and that, two, that dating all the way back to all the events from when your little brother James Bond became a secret agent, that you killed, you had a hand in killing the love of his life, Vesperlin, and then you killed his boss / mom, M. How dare you, sir? Yeah, I wish they could retcon this. As a matter of fact, I hope they don't bring it up. I really, really hope they don't bring this up. I think they're going along the lines of Blofeld talking to Léa Seydoux, Madeline Swan, about like something with her family or her father. I don't know. I just hope that it's kind of like, okay, this is what happened to Blofeld. He's in a maximum security prison, like an Arkham Asylum or something. I don't know where James Bond's bad or all the villains of James Bond stay, because I think all the villains in James Bond movies usually end up dying. As a matter of fact, it's something I have to go back and revisit. How many villains actually got a chance to live in James Bond movies? I think, aside from Blofeld, I think he's like one of the very few that actually have survived. The Walther PPK. I don't know. And if you know that answer, please tell me. This comes from longtime listener Gary Simpson. Hi, Brian. What do you think about the big casting news with Blofeld and also the new 007? Well, I did touch on that earlier in the show, but like I said, I love the character of Blofeld. The character, that is. I liked everything at the very first half that I saw of Blofeld and Spectre. The man at the desk, him adjusting the mic. You can continue now. All those things I really liked, but when it came to when Bond and Madeline Swan were visiting him at his secret hollowed out volcano lair, it's like it just something happened there. I don't know. They decided to go the direction of the brother, which I didn't like. I liked how James Bond gave him his like little iconic scar like he did in Blofeld had in You Only Live Twice. I still say that Donald Pleasance is my favorite Blofeld. As for the 007, like I said, it's just a number. Pierce Brosnan said it best. So, this next question comes from, Kyle Golf. If Bond 25 were to reboot any pre-Craig villain instead of Blofeld, who would be the best choice? Ooh. Bond 25 were to reboot any pre-Craig villain instead of Blofeld, who would be the best choice? Well, I will roll out Goldfinger. You can't touch Goldfinger. I wouldn't want Dr. No. I know that people were thinking that that's a possibility of Dr. No. I would say... Let me think. You know what? I will go... No, because that's been done already again with... Oh, how about, I'll say this to be funny. Hugo Drax. No, I don't like... I liked Hugo Drax. I liked how that actor portrayed him. Man, I got nothing. I'm going to have to think... You know what? I will have to think about this one a little bit more in depth. There's one I'm thinking of. Largo. I would... You know what? I'm just going to say Largo. If they brought back Blofeld, why not bring Largo? Why not bring back... what's her name? She was in From Russia with Love. Colonel Klebb. Yeah, Colonel Klebb. Yes, please bring back Colonel Klebb. Oh my God, that would be so great if they brought her back. Anyway, so I'm down to less than a minute here. So that wraps it up for this episode of The Night Cave. Please be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spreaker. The biggest thing I always ask is that you share the show with your friends. Let them know that there's a show that talks about Batman, Bond movies, Arrow, and now Knight Rider. Follow me on all the various social media networks, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Night Cave. Like James Bond, I will return. Until next time, I'm Brian Thomas. I'm going to go down some water and take a nap. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.